All right, here comes the monster. One continuous brutal flow, no brakes, no headers, no mercy, ending in cold fade. Francesco Bagnaia is not falling, he is plummeting. And the sickest part is that everyone can see it while he keeps pretending he's holding on to some kind of rope. There's no rope. There's no saving hand reaching out from the pit. The man who was Ducati's crown jewel, the rider who was supposed to carry the brand into eternity, is standing in front of us, disintegrating one lap at a time. And no one in that garage has the tools to stop it. Because the war isn't against Ducati. It isn't against the GP25. It isn't against the grid. It's against the noise in his own head. You saw it at Misano, his home circuit, the stage that should have been his redemption arc. And instead, it turned into the ugliest mirror of his decline. He started the weekend with that fake flash of promise, telling himself Friday looked good, telling himself maybe this time the feeling was back, and then by Saturday, he was already sinking. 8th in qualifying, then humiliated in the sprint, 13th and over 16 seconds off in just 13 laps, watching Marco Bezzecchi dance away from him like he wasn't even part of the same championship. And then Sunday, the final humiliation, crashing out of 8th like some backmarker rookie, not even battling at the sharp end, not even relevant. And what did he say? I'm living a nightmare. My patience is running out. You can feel the desperation dripping out of his words, but here's the truth. His patience isn't the only thing running out. Ducati's patience is running out, the fans' patience is running out, and worst of all, the respect is running out. Because while Pecco is tumbling into the abyss, Marc Márquez is rising like a firestorm. Same team, same machinery, but one man is conquering, and the other is crumbling. Marquez took Misano and branded it his kingdom, stamped his 11th win of the season, edged closer to his 7th crown, and in doing so, underlined Pecco's irrelevance with every lap he led. This is the brutal contrast. One man is living the rebirth of legends, and the other is suffocating in a coffin of his own mind. And Ducati knows it. That's the part that cuts. The engineers tore through the data, pulled the GP24 apart, the GP25, even looked at the early stages of the GP26. They found nothing wrong. Nothing. No gremlins in the engine, no secret setup flaw, which means the problem isn't the bike. It's the rider. It's Pecco himself. The machine is capable, proven by Marquez, proven by other Ducati riders stacking results. The factory can change swing arms, play with aero, test maps, but they cannot exorcise the demons rattling inside Bagnaia's skull. And that's why they're shielding him publicly, feeding the press polite lines, protecting his image, while behind closed doors, the message is savage. The problem is Pecco, and no amount of mechanical trickery can fix a rider who has stopped trusting himself. Look at the cycle. It's always the same. He crashes, he suffers, he collapses, then a test comes, and suddenly he feels alive again. At Misano, just one day after his humiliation, he rode that same bike, no magical new pieces bolted on, and suddenly, he was a second quicker. Suddenly, he was finishing 6th in the test, even ahead of Marquez. Suddenly, he was smiling again. That's the pattern. A test session gives him clarity, makes him think he's solved it, and then when the lights go out the next weekend, that very setup betrays him. It's the cruelest loop in MotoGP right now. He finds something, then it dissolves under pressure. He clings to false dawns, but dawn never comes. That's not development. That's psychological quicksand. And Ducati's own general manager, Gigi Dall'Igna, spelled it out after Misano. One day is not really enough to solve such a delicate situation. That's not a warning. That's a death sentence disguised as caution. Because when your boss says one day is not enough, what he's really saying is, we don't see a solution here. Not in the short term, maybe not at all. Pecco sat with Casey Stoner after Misano, hours after leaving the track, soaking in advice, hoping that a ghost from Ducati's golden past could hand him a lifeline. And yes, Stoner is a legend. Yes, Stoner understands pressure and fragility better than anyone. But here's the hard question. If the only thing keeping you sane is leaning on someone else's shadow, what happens when the shadow isn't there? Stoner isn't going to live in that garage. He isn't going to hold your hand every lap. And if the only time Bagnaia feels anchored is when Casey is whispering in his ear, then he's already lost, because it means his confidence isn't his own, it's borrowed. And borrowed confidence always runs out. The statistics are merciless. Since Sachsenring, where he at least scraped a podium, Bagnaia has collected just 40 points in 5 rounds. 40. Marquez in that same stretch has racked up 168. Bezzecchi, 99. Pedro Acosta, a rookie, 89. Even Alex Marquez, forever the forgotten brother, pulled 69. That's the scoreboard of a champion being swallowed by the tide. Bagnaia is bleeding out in the standings, and soon even third place will be ripped from him. Bezzecchi is already breathing down his neck. Acosta is hunting him with fearless hunger. Bagnaia isn't just losing races, he's losing ground to kids, to underdogs, to men he used to crush without breaking a sweat. That's the kind of erosion you don't come back from unless you flip the switch inside your head. And right now, his switch is stuck in the off position. And all of this is happening under the cruelest backdrop. Marc Márquez roaring back from the dead and being hailed as the undisputed king. While Bagnaia weeps about nightmares, Marquez is turning nightmares into trophies. While Pecco says his patience is running out, Marquez is stacking wins, sprint after sprint, Grand Prix after Grand Prix, turning Ducati's blood red into a war banner. Gigi Dall'Igna himself said it after Misano: Marquez is the undisputed 2025 king. Those were the words. That's the knife. Imagine being Bagnaia, hearing your own boss, the architect of your titles, now branding another man the king while you're being told your delicate situation can't be fixed in one day. Imagine standing in your own garage and realizing the story has moved on, the spotlight has shifted, and you're just the afterthought. That's not pressure, that's suffocation. And here's the darkest part. Ducati has already made its choice. Their future is Marquez. Their renewal priority is Marquez. Bagnaia's seat is no longer sacred. The man who became their most decorated rider, the face of their modern era, now hangs by a thread that he himself keeps burning. They won't say it in public. They'll still protect him with rehearsed lines. But inside, they've already shifted their faith. They've already decided who their warlord is. And it isn't Pecco anymore. The battlefield now isn't mechanical. It isn't strategic. It isn't even physical. Bagnaia's body is fine. His reflexes are sharp. The GP25 is a weapon proven beyond doubt. The enemy is his own mind, and that enemy is louder than the engine, sharper than the tires, crueler than the competition. Every time he throws a leg over that bike, the demons climb on with him. They whisper in every braking zone, they scream through every apex, and they laugh every time he slides into gravel. Ducati can't exorcise those demons. His crew chief can't. His academy brothers can't. Stoner can't. The only man who can fight them is Bagnaia himself, and right now, he isn't fighting, he's folding. So where does this end? Not with Ducati rescuing him, not with engineers finding a magic setup, not with a test day miracle. Because as Gigi said, one day isn't enough, and maybe no number of days will ever be enough if the rider himself doesn't change. Ducati's hands are tied. They've given him the bike, the data, the resources, the protection. But they cannot give him courage. They cannot give him clarity. They cannot ride for him. And so we're left with the image of Misano, the perfect split screen of modern MotoGP. On one side, Marc Márquez, the undisputed king, celebrating with Bezzecchi after a duel that honored the sport 11 wins deep into a season that feels like destiny. And on the other side, Francesco Bagnaia, crashing out in front of his home fans, hiding from the cameras, slipping out of the garage at 7 o'clock after hours of whispered consolation, telling himself he's found something in a test that everyone else knows will betray him again. That's the tragedy. That's the nightmare. That's the sound of a champion losing not to rivals, but to himself. And the coldest part is this: there is no ending yet, no redemption, no closure. Just a man trapped in his own loop, waiting for the next false dawn, waiting for the next crash, waiting for the next test that tells him lies. Ducati has already stepped aside. Marquez has already seized the throne. The paddock has already moved on. But Bagnaia? He's still out there, alone on the bike, carrying demons louder than any engine, fading lap by lap into the silence that follows when the cheers have turned into pity. And that silence doesn't end. It lingers. It follows. It gets louder. It never fades.